What's up, everybody? Welcome to The Revival. My name is JJ, and let's talk current gen. Are you done? Are you done, pal? No? Just gonna... Yep. Just gonna keep... Okay, yep. Mm-hmm. Okay, he's done. Hi, buddy. Hi. So, sorry, my cat was, like, totally scratching the wall or something. It was just making a really weird sound, and I was, like, waiting for him to stop. I kind of figured it might be a good idea to just do a little quick check-in on how things are going as far as the current gen with the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5. What made me kind of think of doing this was I saw a post on Twitter. I think it was posted by PlayStation, or somebody reporting that PlayStation had the number or something like that, saying like they had like sold like 10 million units of the PS5. And to be honest, like I kind of started to it kind of like made me cringe a little bit, just because I'm like, that just seems so like tone deaf to report that. And to just put it out there when there are still so many people who don't have that console that want it. And I imagine it's a similar situation with the Xbox Series X. I don't know why they know how bad it is, because they've been talking about like, oh, this shortage could be going into like, you know, all the way to 2023 in some cases. And it's insane to me to just for them to just throw that out there and like brag about it. Like, who's buying your consoles, buddy? You know, the people who are marking it up, and that's not really cool. And I don't know that that's something I would brag about at all. It just seems tone deaf to me. I don't know. So how to structure this? I'll just go one by one. So as far as I'll start with the Xbox. I love the Xbox Series X. I think the backwards compatibility on it is freaking phenomenal. It is awesome. I had my cousin who is like 19. He asked me to help him do his taxes. So he came over and we did that. And then I mentioned to him that I had the new consoles and everything like that. And so he wanted to see it, try it out. And I mentioned that the Xbox Series X was backwards compatible with everything. He was like, so you can play any Xbox on it, any Xbox game from any point on it at all. It's like, yeah, pretty cool. And so he got super excited, and he was like, well, before I go, can we play? And I was like, oh yeah, sure, absolutely. So, man, just hit me right there, because he picks out Battlefront on the original Xbox, or Battlefront 2. And I was like, really? He goes, yeah, and because I love that game so much, it's so good. And so we just played some split-screen Battlefront 2 old school from the original Xbox on the Series X, and it was a blast. Freaking love it. I was like, oh my gosh, I miss Galactic Conquest so much. It's so good. And it was so much fun. The problem is, with the Series X, like, we don't have any games for it at all yet. Like, what? Why? Come on, man. Part of me is like sitting here saying, they released these consoles way too early. It just feels like, what were you guys thinking if you didn't have like a launch lineup to back it up? Like, I feel like, I would say in Xbox's case, it's probably a better move to do so, because A, you're going to get ahead of the game, and B, you've got the backwards compatibility in there, so there's a ton that people can play. I literally just took my Xbox One, and shelved it. It's back in the box, and I don't have to worry about it because I don't need it anymore. Because I can, obviously play all the games from it at any point. And that's the beauty of it, is that I have like a one-stop shop. I can just have everything all in that one box, and it's perfect for me to be able to just play on there. So I'm happy about that. I just wish there was some new stuff for it. That's the problem. Is I love like seeing what the innovations and the new stuff people come out with and everything. And even if they did, like, these consoles are so hard to get that it's like, and that's still like, a year later, would it even make that much of a difference? It's so unfortunate. I'm curious if people are buying games just to have them, even if they don't have the consoles. I imagine in some cases they are, but I'm curious if people are actually buying games like PS5 games and stuff. There's no exclusive Xbox Series X games as far as I'm concerned, as far as I'm aware. But it's just so odd to me that I hesitate to say lack of preparation, but just kind of like, I would really like to know what they were thinking, and that goes for both sides. Just because it's just, there seems to be so many buts in there. Like, yeah, you have your console out, but there's not really any games for it, not really any new games for it. But you really don't have the stock to back up, giving it to people. It's just odd. So it's, they're business people. They know better than I do, obviously, and I'm not disputing the fact whatsoever. It's just, to me, looking at it, it's a little weird. But like I said, in the Xbox's case, because of that backwards compatibility, out of the two, I think that was probably a better choice. They had more of a reason to release their console at this point. Even though I think in both cases they maybe should have waited a little longer. As far as the PlayStation 5, and on the Xbox, that's the big reason is while I love having the old games, I still don't use it very often. And it's because there isn't a lot of new stuff on there. And I probably would if I had some new games, especially now that I'm literally on the last game of my 20 games for the year. I'm going to be focusing more on new stuff to get done and move throughout the year. So I can't really do that on the Xbox. So we'll see. But I am planning on next year putting a handful of Xbox games on my list of 20, as well as some cool ideas to be able to play it a little more, because I definitely feel like I've been neglecting the system, and that goes for every Xbox console in history. I've definitely neglected it, and I would love to play some catch up on those consoles and play some more of those games, because I know it has a lot to offer for sure. As far as PS5 goes, I mean I use it all the time. It's a great system. Mainly because I still play PS4 games on there and stuff, and it's my Netflix machine and whatnot. I just, again, the whole like bragging about 10 million units sold when people are like still trying to get them, and you're looking at that and you're like, most of those are freaking scalpers, dude. Like, what the hell? I don't know if it's most, but a good chunk are scalpers. I wouldn't be surprised if it's most. I don't understand why they would throw that out there and act like that's something to be proud of when they know the issues with people wanting to get this thing. That just seems so tone deaf to me. I don't understand it. Again, not a businessman, but I am very much like curious as to what they were thinking. PS5 obviously does have games, but it's not like, I literally got one, Scarlet Nexus, and I talked about this in a pickups video when I talked about getting it. I got it because I was like, I need to play some new games, that way I have I can put together a top 5 list for next year. And I wasn't planning on getting that, but I've heard some people talk about it and whatnot, and I was like, it's new, I guess I'll grab it and stuff. And watch me, I'm like being so like careless and nonchalant about it. Watch me like end up loving it and being my game of the year. But it's just kind of, again, a little bit lackluster in the new department. Even though it does have games, I still feel like that there's so many buts as far as the launch in there, and that lack of backwards compatibility is a huge one. I still have my PS3 hooked up, and right now I have my PS2 hooked up because I've been playing Wild Arms Ultra Code F. And so, like, I still have to hook up my older consoles, which is annoying. I don't want to have to do that. I want to have my one-stop shop. Thank you, Xbox. Thank you, Microsoft, for doing that, because that is a huge deal to people like me who love playing those older games. And I don't know why PlayStation is so resistant to that. I don't understand it. I think it's great that you can play PS4 games on your PS5, but I just do not understand their lack of wanting to do any sort of backwards compatibility beyond that. And to throw in like them almost closing down like the PS3 store and the Vita store and stuff, I'm like, what? Do you just not want the? And again, that would be a whole separate video, because I always end up like trailing off into this, because that goes into preserving games and that kind of stuff. Like if my PS3 craps out on me one day, I don't have one, and I have to get a whole new system. You know, I don't have any way, and PS3s are starting to get to the point where like they're kind of crumbling a little bit and not doing so well. Pretty much every person I know has had to replace their PS3. As far as I know, like in my immediate group of friends, I'm like the only one that still has the original PS3 that he got back in the day. So it's you know, it is what it is, but it's just, I really wish I didn't have to do that. I wish I could just put it in its box, or well, I don't have a box for it, but I wish I could just shelve it and play all my games on my PS5. It'd be awesome. Even if they had just like some sort of adapter that you plugged in, I would love that. I would love to be able to just play these old games in one place. It's just so unfortunate they are so resistant to that and they don't understand it. As far as the two consoles, and which I'm not really going to talk about Nintendo. They're with the Switch. They're doing great. The new one is a little weird. I don't really understand the point of having that new console. I thought maybe they would have one that was going to be like fix the Joy-Con drift, which should have been a no-brainer, but also like, you know, maybe upscale graphics a little bit and just I just don't know. Like, there's no reason for me to get the new one at all. I see no reason for me to get it, which means I probably will at some point. But I'm not in a rush to get it, is my point. But as far as the PS5 and the Xbox Series X, right now, if I had to choose between the two of what to get, man, like if I only had the option to get one of them, that is really tough. I would say probably the Xbox Series X. Just because there are so few, and this is me personally, because I know there's a lot of people who love the new games that are coming out on PS5, also want to see even like PS5 versions of games that came out on the PS4 and that kind of stuff. Totally get that, and that's totally understandable and very, very valid. For me though, it's about the sheer amount of games I can play on that console and what I can do with it. I could have had my PS4 still hooked up, and I still would have been playing pretty much the exact same games. I have 3 discs that are PS5 discs. Everything else I can play on the PS4 and below. And 2 of the games that I own on the PS5... 2? I think? No, 1. One of the games I own, because Demon Souls and Scarlet Nexus, I think, are PS5 exclusives? Correct me if I'm wrong. Scarlet Nexus may not be. I know Demon Souls is, though. But Phoenix Phoenix Rising is also on PS4, so I could have just had my PS4 still hooked up and still played 99.999% of the games that I have that I'm using my PS5 for, and nothing would have changed other than, you know, obviously the difference in power between the two, which to me isn't a big deal. So as far as like just what I can do and what it's able to do. And I say that knowing full well that I use my PS5 a lot more. I'm just saying as far as like, because I don't need to be using that, I could have done the exact same thing with my PS4. That's why I would choose the Xbox Series X, because of all the backwards compatibility and ease of it. And you could do that with the Xbox One too, don't get me wrong. You had that backwards compatibility, but it's just so much easier with this. They just streamlined everything, the whole process, and literally you pop your disc in, it's good to go. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. Take everything I say with a grain of salt, because this stuff has been changing super quick. Holidays are coming up, so you're going to see some heavy hitters coming out. I'm excited to see Halo, and I'm excited to see some more PS5 exclusives as well. I'm we're almost a year after the consoles came out, and I would have told you, I did tell you a while ago, like back in like December of last year, saying like, oh yeah, by February, we'll have plenty of them. It's tons. We still have a massive shortage, and I'm still telling you, a year later now, having been through it and owning both consoles, you really don't need them still, either one. Just because there's really no reason other than just clout to get them. Unless you really, really are into the few PS5 exclusives that there are. And I would argue that there's not enough to warrant buying an entire system for those games when it does become super, super easy to get and they're in stores everywhere and all that stuff. It's probably going to get discounted at some point too, and you'll be able to play all those games at that point anyway. So patience is still the key right now. You just kind of have to roll with it, and we don't have a choice. But that's why I keep stressing to everybody who is still like, I hate that we can't get these. I hate that we can't get these. It's okay. Like, trust me. Even if you get it and you start playing it and all that stuff, you're almost immediately going to realize, like, am I really doing anything that different from what I was doing before? Like, no. So I just, and again, this is all just my experience, and if you're somebody who loves to see a difference in power and wants that upgrade and everything like that, more power to you. Absolutely. So, that's great. We all play games for different reasons. So yeah, I'm kind of curious. Those of you who have the consoles, what are your thoughts so far right now on them? Those of you who don't have the consoles, are you still like you feel like you have to have one? And if so, like, why? What's your driving force behind wanting to get one of the two or both? So let me know. And also, if you do have both, let me know which you would recommend. Because I like to see, like, obviously my opinion matters very little compared to the rest of the world. So I like seeing as many people as possible saying like, hey, I've got both. I would choose this over this because of XYZ. So let me know in the comments down below. Like, comment, subscribe, all that fun stuff. You know the drill. And as always, keep on gaming.